So I wanted to make sure that this video is able to help you guys elevate your chances of getting into the co-op program, because let's be honest, you're competing against a lot of students who have similar experiences as you do. So how are you going to shine when it comes to the interview process just to get into the co-op program? So when I posted my OSAP series a few weeks back, I talked about how co-op affected my OSAP funding, but I also got quite a few video requests for me to talk about my co-op experience in my school. So I'm not gonna disclose my school's name just for privacy reasons, but for those of you who clicked on the YouTube link that linked you to this video, you know what school I'm talking about. But really in Canada, there's a lot of programs in post-secondary that it has a similar format where you would get into your area of study, and then from that area of study, so you would complete the first year and then you would have to apply to get into the co-op program. That's usually around the second year mark, and that's how it worked for my school. So this video is going to be broken down into 3 parts. The first one is going to talk about this preparation, so what kind of jobs you should look for or apply to as you prepare to get into second year to apply for co-op, because they do value some types of jobs other than other types of jobs, and I'll get into that later. I'll also talk about what your resume should look like, what clubs you should be joining, let's say again in first year, and then the second part will cover the interview process. So what are some of the questions they ask you and what are they really looking for when it comes to your responses. And the last piece, I'll talk about why I left the co-op program. I know it's such a mic drop because it's not something common, but this is more so for a lesson for you guys in the future as you head into the work life. So in terms of the preparation for your co-op, it really depends on what program or area of study you currently are in. So if you are, for example, in business like myself, then you want to make sure that your jobs leading up to second year when you apply for co-op falls into the business realm. So they prefer something within an office setting. Whereas if you are a science student and you want to get into the science realm of labs and research, then they do prefer a job that has put you in a prior situation where you had to complete a research project. But nowadays with COVID, it's quite hard to get these sort of jobs, especially if you are currently in first year, especially if it's summertime and everything is virtual. So what I would suggest in first year, and this is actually really important, but they look at your extracurriculars. So what kind of clubs have you joined, and not only as a member, but on the executive team. So you actually had to apply for these sorts of positions. And the reason why they look for these positions is that they want to see you in more of a leadership position, no matter which area of study you are currently in. They want to see an example of taking on a leadership position to own up to responsibility. Because at the end of the day, co-op is only vetting you to make sure that you are a good candidate for a whole bunch of other students across Canada who are applying for the same jobs, whether it is a co-op or an internship. So that is why they are a little bit harder on you in terms of what kind of students can go through into this program. So I mentioned clubs. Now specifically the clubs that you want to join, not only should you be an executive member on this, but you should also show that you believe in something called diversity and inclusion. And it's very important because nowadays with all of the BLM movements as well, it's even more important now. But nowadays a lot of companies believe in the whole diversity and inclusion movement, and they are putting priority essentially on those who have been involved in diversity and inclusion initiatives. So whether it is, for example, helping those with mental health or disabilities, or those BIPOC, Black, Indigenous people of color, they value that. So if you are able to be in a club where you are an executive member that is helping out members within those communities, it puts you on a different edge than if you were, for example, a business student and you were in a finance club as an exec member or an accounting club as an exec member, sure, and that was about it. If you show that you also care about the community, again, that puts you on a whole different level. So in terms of what your resume should look like, I'm gonna be very straightforward. It should not look something like this. So you want to make sure that your resume is marketing yourself in a very positive light. So it should really hit up on 3 points. 1 is that it is clean. 2 is that it is aesthetically pleasing and therefore stands out. And the third point is that it is to the point, as in the content within it It's, it's not droning on for a long run-on sentence. And also the fact if there is quantitative data, like I use the example of organizing an event with over 100 students and alumni. Putting numbers in a resume really draws the co-op office's attention. So you want to make sure that you hit up on those 3 points, and I'll put quite a few templates here and also down below in the description box. I found a lot from Pinterest, and I'm going to find quite a few that are both applicable for those who identify with a male style versus a female style, or those who identify with a unisex style. I used InDesign to create mine. I personally don't like Word doc either. It's very hard to format. So I highly recommend something using the Adobe Creative Suites in order to create a really sleek and pristine resume. When I was applying for co-op with companies, one of the first things that recruiters have told me was how much they enjoyed looking at my resume, how easy it was to read, because it stood out amongst all the other applicants. And again, this is what I want you guys to get out of this video, to stand out amongst all the other applicants. You have to realize that the people who are interviewing you likely will not be in the same generation as you are. And so what you find as really fashionable and in style when it comes to wearing to an interview, they might not think the same. So that's why it's safer to go in a more classic, timeless fashion aspect, rather than just going on like a neon green suit or a neon green dress or something that's really flashy. But again, it's always good if you add a pop of color, something unique that would, again, make you stand out. Hands down, do not wear gray. I have seen students with sweat stains under their armpits, and especially if they were wearing gray, just don't wear gray. So when it comes to the actual interview process, I want to give you guys some tips that are outside of what you usually hear. They always say that first impressions are everything, but also you want to make a good lasting impression towards the end. But let's hit up on the first impression. So when you do walk in, you want to make sure that, you are standing up tall and straight. You're not slouching, no matter how nervous you are. But there is something that you guys need to be careful of, that you are not too cocky. And this is especially prevalent, I found, in first-year males. The idea of acting or having to act like an alpha male in order to come off as confident, it doesn't work at all, because you have to realize the people who are interviewing you, they have seen all types of applicants. So in order for you to really stand out, you want to show that you are humble but confident. And it is challenging at times to find the balance between the humble and confident aspect, but you gotta make sure that you show it. You have to make sure that you show that you care about the community, about others, because you can have the most amazing technical skills, but at the end of the day, if you are applying for co-op and they can see that nobody would want to work with you within that workplace because you are so cocky and full of yourself, then you're gonna go down to the bottom of the pile when it comes to acceptances. I can essentially guarantee that. And this is applicable also for those who self-identify as females, right? It's not only for males, but I find it's really exaggerated for males, and I can understand why. It's a harsh world for you males out there as well. On the one extreme, you have the very cocky individual, and then on the other extreme, you have somebody who is quite shy and quite nervous, and they kind of slouch like this. Yeah, you don't want to be like that either. Again, you guys have to find a right balance between the two. And the third tip that I want to hit up on when it comes to an interview, no matter how many times you have practiced your answer in front of your friends, do not sound monotone. Enunciate certain words, smile, make facial expressions if you need, be funny if you need to, make yourself memorable. Again, this is more so playing with the cards that you've been dealt. And if you are somebody who is very bubbly, very outgoing, then kudos to you. It might be easier for you to talk to somebody in front of you. But if you are a shy, very introverted, I've seen them do extremely well in interviews as well, because they've prepped a lot and they were able to be themselves uniquely, where there is something intriguing about them. Even if, they were shy, they were able to enunciate their words as confidently as possible, and they were able to make eye contact. Make sure you make eye contact, but not eye contact like you're not blinking whatsoever because you are so nervous. In terms of what questions they ask you, a lot of the times it's like, tell me about yourself. It's a lot of soft skills focused questions rather than hard technical skills. The hard technical skills focused questions are more so for when you apply for jobs for actual companies. It's definitely a plus on the resume, but don't go so in depth into it because co-op recruiters, I don't think they would care as much. A lot of people say practice in front of the mirror, and it's a really good idea to practice in front of the mirror, but it's even better to practice with a friend, a trusted friend. And if you have no friends, then practice in front of somebody that you trust, like a parent or somebody who is able to give you feedback. I'm gonna make a whole separate video on how to prepare for an interview in general, but this is specific for a co-op application. Again, don't be too cocky, don't be too shy. Make sure that you're making eye contact, not too freaky eye contact. Make sure that you are enunciating your words, using facial expressions. Feel free to use your hands. I use my hands a lot when I talk, but that's something that pulls people in, right? Make sure you smile. I think I mentioned that. Yeah, make sure you smile, but not in a freaky way again either. Just make sure everything is natural and that you are just exuberating this confidence that, trust me, not a lot of students who haven't seen this video, the students who haven't seen this video would probably not be able to keep these pieces in their heads because they are so nervous about prepping for the interview. Believe me guys, I've covered the main questions that are going to ask in terms of, tell me about yourself, your extracurricular experience, tell me about most amazing achievement, tell me about a time that you struggled working with a group and what came from it. They also mentioned the STAR method, which is situation, task, analysis, results. Follow that method, but again, make sure you add a twist to it where you're just like, okay, but these are the lessons that I've learned from the incoming result. They really like to hear how you're able to gather feedback either on yourself or from other people giving you feedback and applying that feedback to another situation. They love to hear those stories. When you head into your area of study, when you're accepted into it, within that first year, everything that you are working towards is with the goal to get into co-op for a lot of students. The thing about co-op is they put the needs of the employers above the students when it comes to interview matching. And this would make sense because they don't want to, demolish the relationship that they've built with the company so that future students would have opportunities to work at the company. And for co-op, I lost a lot of sleep on deciding whether or not I should drop the co-op program because there was no way for me to get out to accept the external position without dropping it. Do not make a decision based off of feeling like you owe somebody else something. Make sure that the choice that you do make is aligned to your final goal. And I know that if I did not drop the co-op program, I would have felt some level of regret of not taking the external opportunity. That was why I left, because I couldn't take my external opportunity that I was offered if I kept with the skills co-op program. And the only change really was that it would no longer say co-op option on the degree once you graduate. Nothing else changes. So I'm going to end it off at that. I really hope this video was helpful. If it was, please share it with a friend. I wish I had these videos when I was going through post-secondary because, again, I came from parents who didn't have any network connections to, I guess you could say, this business world. Perhaps you're not a business student and you don't have any connections outside of your own realm and you have to build it from the base up, just like I had to from a few years back. Believe me, you can do it with the right mindset and wanting to elevate yourself. So with that, I will see you in my next video.